What is up, everyone? Foxy here once again, and today I'm going to be answering some viewer questions, as well as replying to some comments that I feel are worth mentioning in this video. So if you would like to ask me a question for a future video, please don't hesitate to ask. You can send me your questions through the comments section on YouTube or through Twitter. There will be a link to that in the description if you're interested. So anyway, we're just going to jump right into this with our first question for today. And this one comes from a personal friend of mine. He asked me a few weeks ago, what did your dad think when you were walking around with your camera while you two were out at the flea markets? When I first started doing these live flea market videos, my dad, yes, he thought it was very strange. I mean, he had questioned why I was walking around filming with my phone, and I would just simply say something like, oh, I'm filming to show friends what I got. And he would make a confused face and just say, why? I mean, my dad was aware of my YouTube channel, but I never really talked about it ever. Mostly because I didn't think he would really be all that into it, despite him being a fan of video games. Well, at least the older ones. Then one day we were sitting down watching a really dog shit episode of Impact Wrestling, and he asked me again about the whole filming at the flea markets and why I was doing it every single time we went. I remember pausing the TV and saying, do you want me to just show you what I do with this stuff instead of explaining it, because it'll make more sense? He agreed. I plugged in my computer to the TV and showed him, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the videos, and he flat out loved them. He was all about them, and anytime I would be in the process of making another video, he would always ask, when is it going to be ready? Or if I even started working on it, because he wanted to be the first one to see it pretty much. It really meant a lot to me that he loved these videos, and I want to say that these videos and the flea markets in general helped us bond closer than we ever had before. It's kind of funny how something so small can bring 2 people together, but it did, and I'm never gonna forget those moments. The next comment I received was by Bingus Does It. The reason I like your game hunting videos is that you're not like the other guys who only hunt for retro Nintendo titles. You'll grab obscure and underrated shit. If you haven't already, I'd recommend MechAssault 1 and 2 on Xbox and Crimson Skies for Xbox. You see, that's the problem I have with a lot of people who make these types of videos. And please, those of you who do make them or like people who make them also, do not take this as a personal attack or whatever. This is merely one man's opinion. I stopped watching most video game hunters for that specific reason. 8 out of 10 of them would only seem to go out of their way to grab nothing but Nintendo or retro stuff, like Genesis, Atari, things of that nature, which is totally fine. But when every single person is doing it, it gets really boring after a while. Yes, there are things that I will not collect, or things that I really limit myself on, but I'll go after anything that I don't have as long as I can get it for cheap. I don't care if it's a Resident Evil game, Castlevania, or some random Barbie game for the Game Boy. If I don't have it and I can get it for a few bucks, I'm buying it. Simple as that. The next thing is not really a specific comment so much as it is a common thing that is said. People always make comments saying how I should have bought this, or how I missed that, or things of that nature. A lot of the time, it's not a fact of me missing whatever game it was. It's more on the lines of, I see it, I already own it. I don't need 2 or even in some case 3 copies of the same game. And then there are times where I don't buy whatever game it is because the disc is either damaged or missing, what have you, and I don't feel the need to explain that in every single video, every single time I see a game that you make a comment about. Yes, there has been a handful of times where I've missed out on a game that I just didn't see or didn't think was hard to find. The most recent case of that happening was in the last thrift store video where I held out the Big Box Thief 2 game and talked about how I heard the game didn't age well from a friend. I had no idea the game in that condition goes for like 70 bucks. If I knew that at the time, would I have bought it? I might have, yeah, but I'm not really into collecting PC games, so I think if I bought it, I probably would have thrown it on eBay and used that money towards more motorcycle shit. But I don't know. Tony had this to say about one of my thrift store videos. "You're so negative, dude. Always so mundane with everything you say. Need to lighten up." Tony is not the first person to complain about how I talk in my videos, and I imagine he's nowhere near gonna be the last. Someone else told me I had a monotone voice. Really? Monotone? Are you fucking high? Ugh. Anyway, I'm not going to fake my reactions or force them. That's not me. That's not what I'm about. Why would I sound excited or happy when I find things I don't like? Broken games that I would have wanted, or when I find the same sports titles over and over and over again. I do also throw in a lot of dry humor, which I think tends to go straight over people's heads sometimes, but there's nothing really I can do about that. This particular video that Tony commented on, I think I might have been more pessimistic than I normally am, because I made that video in question not even a couple months after my dad passed away. So I imagine that had something to do with why I sounded so, quote, negative. In fact, I'm pretty sure that played a large role in it. At the end of the day, if you don't like how I am in my videos, don't understand my humor or sarcasm or collecting habits, then you really don't have to watch. It's all your choice, after all. This is, I believe, the third time someone has asked me a question like this. Which flea market do you go to? He also adds, I saw so much WWE stuff, and I never see stuff like that at my local ones. Don't take this the wrong way, but there'd be no possible way I would ever give out that information except to my personal friends. If you really sit down and think about it, why would I do that? If I did, that would make a lot more video game buyers and probably resellers go to these places. Then I would have to basically compete with even more people, and that would be a really stupid move on my part. This next comment kinda sorta relates to a previous one. I did have one guy ask if I hated retro games because I never really show that much footage of like Nintendo stuff or Genesis stuff, nor do I really go out of my way to buy retro games. The short answer to your question is no. I love games from all ages. I don't care what the system is as long as I can get enjoyment out of the game, whether the game itself is good or bad. I don't care. For the longer answer, I believe I touched on this before. In fact, I know I have, but anyway, it's not that I don't like retro games. It's that a vast majority of people, sellers, think that any somewhat retro game magically happens to be worth gold. I've had these sellers tell me outrageous shit, like how all these games are collectible or rare or hard to find, whatever. Just because something is old or collectible doesn't mean you should be charging stupid high prices for it. Especially in today's age where all it takes is not even a 10-second search on eBay to figure out if you're full of shit or not. Especially when a seller makes a comment about how whatever game he is selling is rare and goes for X on eBay. 95 times out of 100, there's like over 100 listings of that same exact game and selling for cheaper than what the guy is asking for. What I normally do with retro games is that if it's cheap and I don't have it, I'll buy it. I'm not going to shell out 10 to 15 bucks per game unless it's something I absolutely must have. When it comes to buying games at the flea markets, I'm a cheap ass and I'm willing to admit that. I really don't like spending more than $5 max on a single game I have no idea what the value is to it. Usually my favorites are the $2 a piece or 2 games for $5. That's how a majority of my purchases tend to be if you haven't noticed already. With PlayStation games, Xbox, and sometimes even GameCube, sellers don't seem to care that much about them, which is a good thing for me because I often walk out with some amazing games for extremely cheap prices. And not too many people on YouTube seem to go after these kinds of games. which is in a way kind of cool since that makes what I hunt for at these places, I guess, a little bit unique, if that makes sense. I don't know. Honestly, I could probably make a 10-minute long video discussing the entire topic of this whole deal here, but I don't know if that's something anyone would really want to listen to. This next comment is from Thomas, which is talking about the video I made where I was discussing my 150 plus game deal I got for 40 bucks at a garage sale. For those who don't really know the situation, you should probably watch that video first, since this comment and my reply might confuse you. Anyway, he writes, I kind of feel this whole video is like, what's the point? If these people are fucking attacking you because of a great deal you have gotten, they are just jealous, because they probably would have given her less than $40. If you go out with X amount of money and you spent 20 bucks, you could have only given her the remainder, which is 40. How the hell were you supposed to give her more money? Were you supposed to give her $40 and then say, I'll run and get 10, but don't let anyone pick through these games? No, it's a difference of $10. The seller was fine with it. Who fucking cares? The people who are saying whatever on the other video are just fucking jealous. So, Thomas, I can't say I disagree with you at all on any of the points you made here. The whole reason I made that video was because I really don't like people saying shit about me that isn't true, or claiming things about me that are also untrue, you know? Yes, this is the internet. I should expect these kind of nasty comments, especially now due to my subs are rising more and more each week. And going forward, I'm going to have to take things a little less to heart and just brush all the bullshit aside, so to speak. As far as them being, you know, jealous of me, and that's why they're talking shit, I don't get that mentality. To talk shit to someone you know nothing about at all because you are jealous of them for whatever reason. To me, that's utterly ridiculous, and I will never understand that. On my rise and fall of Midway games, Big Sock 099 had this to say. How the fuck does this not have more views? 409 at the time of this. Like, the amount of detail and information that was put into this is amazing. Your editing is sharp, and your narration is concise, and even when you do meander, it's still interesting to watch. Like, this shit's the shit. First, I'd like to say thank you for the compliment. The low amount of views, yeah, it sucks. Mostly due to having under 500 views, yet I have over 4,000 subs. I hope one day it does gain enough traction to where I can get, I don't know, like 2,000 views. I feel like that would make the time and effort I put into that video worth it for me. Because that video took by far the most time, and it was one of the most aggravating to make on multiple levels. I really don't want to keep making them if not that many people are going to watch them. The final question for today's video comes from my patron, Sam. What is your #1 Grail game to find in the wild? See, a question like this is actually very hard for me, because I found a lot of games that would have been on my holy grail list, so to speak. Not even in terms of rarity, so much as they are just games that I really want to have. The games that were on my must-have list included Super Smash Melee, Luigi's Mansion, both the Dark Cloud games, and both the PS2 Castlevania games. I guess if I were to really think about a game or two that would be my holy grail to me nowadays, probably either Rule of the Rose on the PS2, Harvest Moon on the Super Nintendo, or maybe even the Legend of Zelda Collector's Set thing on the GameCube. I would love to come across any one of those three for cheap. Maybe one day, but I'm certainly not going to hold my breath. So everyone, that is it for today's video. There were a few other comments and questions I would have liked to have gotten to, but we'll leave those for next time. Again, if you would like to ask me a question, please feel free in the comments below or even on Twitter, and I will hopefully get to those in the next video. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, take care of yourselves.